morning, good evening, good afternoon. Is that what he usually does? He's usually like, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, from wherever you are. I think I'm nailing the impression so far.
You're
That's the
welcome.
script.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You're very, very
You're,
welcome.
you're very, very welcome. Welcome to Red Fellas. A grizzless Red Fellas. Because, as someone not in the UK, I occasionally forget how far away Brighton is from Liverpool, how much of a trek that is. Yeah, so it's literally the opposite side of the rock, and you can imagine there are still plenty of traveling Liverpool supporters making their way home. But this is just the panel for today. It's a trio. It's myself, Evan Soccer God. I got Conroy. I got Steve with me here to digest a result. I, there's so much I could say about this result, and we're gonna get into it. But I'm gonna welcome the rest of the panel on. Conroy got a bit of a voice issue. You're not at your vocally strongest. Shall we say that the charming Scottish vibes are not coming through as strong as they usually do. But other than that, are you doing okay?
Yeah, I would say that, Evan. I've actually got some herbal tea here, so
Some chamomile tea?
I think herbal or something recommended
Okay.
my throat. So as I say, I had a wedding yesterday, sang a few too many songs, and it's got worse. So I will do my best today.
Okay, well, I mean, that's better than having like strep throat or something, which is honestly what I thought you were going through. In which case, I would have been like, wow, strep throat, and he's still coming on with us. That's what a trooper. Steve, you're doing better than Conroy, I would imagine. No herbal teas necessary, nothing required. Just Steve and his thoughts. How are you?
I'm good. No weddings, no singing, no herbal tea, none of that going on here, mate. Just a little bit puzzled by certain elements of today's game, which I'm sure we'll get into. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about today at this stage in time. Probably need to sleep on it. Yeah, one of them games, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. One of them games. We had some refereeing themes carrying over into this game. Unfortunately, at this point, I'm kind of just sick of it. But it is something we will have to touch on. Another potentially overlooked moment by PGMOL during the game. Not great, not great. Their PR is in the toilet currently. Okay, Brighton away. Famously, I mean, with the exception of last season, let's toss out last season. Brighton away, famously, bit of a fixture that's been kind to Liverpool in recent years. Beat them during the lockdown season, Brighton away, pretty comfortably. Of course, we had a memorable result there in 17-18, goals from Firmino as well. Great save from Mignolet. We beat them in 21-22, 2-0, relatively straightforward result. But Brighton are a bit in the ascendancy, a club on the up. And it's been a bit of a mixed bag from Brighton so far this season, but I don't think any of us, I don't think any team, shall we say, goes to the Amex these days thinking this is going to be a routine win, because not only are Brighton a phenomenally coached team, they're ran amazing off the pitch, but they have started to add game-changing Premier League caliber individuals into that starting 11. Of course, with the likes of Matoma, Pascal Gross has always been a mainstay. Lewis Dunk, ever present, ever solid, and then they have this myriad of young talent to fill out. I'll go to Conroy first. Conroy, when the lineups came out uh, for Brighton and for Liverpool, shall we say, what were your initial impressions? Obviously, we are a bit limited by certain suspensions to certain players in recent games.
Yeah, Evan, I thought no surprises. I could understand the lineup, and I felt we've had disagreements. The chat saying it about McAllister in the middle of the park. However, I think we had to do what we have to do right now, and I was okay with it. I was okay with it. Again, I agree with you. Brighton's can be a difficult game. They get battered 6-1 by Aston Villa. They will give you a chance. There's space there, but ultimately a very difficult task. But overall, I was okay with the lineup. Okay.
Yeah, I think given what we have to work with, this is as good as it gets, and it's also a testament to our depth. Cody Gakpo currently dealing with the knee issue he picked up at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Uh, Diogo Jota dealing with the softest double yellow card ban I've ever seen in my life. But it's a testament to our depth that we go and we can field a front three capable of beating any team in the world, just because the offensive prowess is there. I think we did demonstrate that at times today. Steve, your thoughts on the lineup, not just Liverpool, but what Brighton's strengths potentially are, how you thought they utilized their game plan. What were your thoughts just when you looked at the 2 11s today?
Yeah, I wanted to see some protection in front of the back four, whether that be Endo. It's clear McAllister's been struggling in there, and this game
Mhm.
would prove to reinforce that ideology, if you like. I thought
Mhm.
that's Brighton's strength, athleticism in the middle of the park. It always has been, and certainly under De Zerbi, that's gone from sort of there to kind of there. And the two new lads that they brought in this season to replace Caicedo and McAllister have covered themselves quite well. I thought today was an opportunity to get it. Brighton, they'd played 3 games, conceded 9 goals, and drawn one of those 3 games. And he'd made many, many changes. I think we're falling into that trap a little bit. I kind of want to see a shape in the midfield, and I want to see us work with it for a little bit rather than be switching and changing and then bringing Harvey Elliott in on the right hand side, which was a little bit. I don't think we saw that coming. From being honest with you, I think we all thought it would be Gravenberch or Endo that would come in and play there. And I thought at times it was like watching Liverpool last season, where there was one stage where Belieber carried the ball 70 yards through nothing of a midfield and then screwed a shot wide. That took me back to last season, and I'm thinking, we criticised Fabinho and Henderson for no legs and being too easy to play against, and I thought McAllister in the deep line role. I hesitate to call it a 6, because if he was a 6, that space isn't there for that guy to run into. I just thought we lacked a bit of discipline in the middle of the park, defensive discipline, and I always felt we could get it this side. And I wanted us to go for the jugular early on, because they're a side that are not in great form, and you put pressure on them early doors. They kind of think back to the Aston Villa game, beaten by 5 goals. Obviously, I thought we played into their hands a little bit. I thought the lineup was be easier for them to play against, and I was a little bit disappointed, if I'm being honest with you.
Fair enough. I think disappointment is the word that's going to echo throughout today's stream. Um, the early exchanges, I think prior to them opening up the scoring, it seemed like we were maybe perhaps canceling each other out a bit. Neither team was really controlling possession, is how I remember it. Neither team really looked like they were in the ascendancy. And obviously, the goal that we concede, Brighton's first goal, it's unacceptable. Cannot concede goals like that in the Premier League, in any competition, at any level. The point of contention with their opening goal, is this a McAllister error? Is this Van Dijk giving the ball to somebody who doesn't need it? Is he passing it to the wrong foot of McAllister? So McAllister thinks he has space on this side. Is it a myriad of all of those things? Playing the blame game is often a bit of a pointless exercise. Of course, things are in the past and there's nothing we could do about it now. But if we're looking to prevent that from happening again, because there are other teams who can press as well as Brighton can and can force those types of turnovers, who is at fault in that situation? Conroy, who, obviously, it's a horrible goal to concede, especially when it's the opening goal of the game. Who were you sort of pulling your hair out, or were you not quite pulling your hair out at that point?
For me, I would say Van Dijk. It's a not a great pass. I think McAllister should maybe do better, but for me, there's just not a great pass. And then I think Allison. Listen, we're going to talk about the wonder saves he makes. I think he should do better as well. Maybe caught off guard. That's why it's quite a clever finish. But for me, it's Van Dijk primarily. But then I think Allison, because when you actually watch it, it's more clever than it is unbelievable. It's quick thinking that catches him out, and I think if he's prepared for that, it's probably because it's such a unique circumstance that he just gets caught out. I actually think he maybe thinks he's getting it, and he just can't
Mhm.
get it quick enough. But I think initially, watching it originally, I thought McAllister, but when I watched the replay, I would say the pass by Van Dijk is just it's just a bit behind him. There's not enough on it, and it allows Adindra, is that correct? They come in
Mm.
and score. But, quite fair play. I thought he was brilliant all day as well, that player.
Yeah, and the unfortunate trend of Liverpool conceding first, unfortunately, rears its ugly, ever-present head again. And one of the things that I brought up last season quite a bit during our, darkest hour was, beyond tactics, beyond individual mistakes, beyond personnel, if you're constantly conceding first, that's probably influencing the scoreline more than any other thing. Because football is a momentum game, it's a confidence game, and if you're constantly shooting yourself in the foot inside 20 minutes, it's going to be hard to put points up on the board. Steve, should Van Dijk be giving McAllister the ball there? Should McAllister know that he has to get rid of it? What was your thought process there, or is it sort of just a collective failure?
Cast your mind back to Nottingham Forest away when we did something very similar to Curtis Jones, and he was had the ball taken off him there, and the outcome of that was catastrophic too. I don't think that's a pass that Van Dijk needs to make. He's almost better off there, just going long in the channel and letting Diaz have a run at their right back. Hard to take a ball back to where you want to go because McAllister is more of a line breaking, forward passing type of midfielder than he is someone that wants the ball under ridiculous amounts of pressure. There aren't many midfielders in the world who want that ball in that position, and Van Dijk is beyond experienced and should know that there's a large element of risk in that. I think then the situation is the guy's just got, like you say, he takes it early. I think Alisson, there is a finger to point at Alisson because he's better than that. But he will tell you all day long he should never have been put in that position. And that's the underlying factor of all of this. If you don't play that ball into McAllister, we're not talking about Alisson. So we have to be realistic about this. It's something we're guilty of. And this is why we go behind often. Some of our decision making is a bit weird at times. That's a horrible, horrible ball to give a centre midfielder of any quality. You'd need Zidane on the end of that to try and do something with that pass. So, it's not great by Van Dijk. I don't blame McAllister. There's not much he can do with that. There's two lads closing him down very quickly because they see the opportunity. And then, as you both quite rightly say, it's just a clever finish. And Alisson can and should do better. But as I said before, we shouldn't really be sitting here talking at a stage where Alisson comes into the conversation. Van Dijk's thrown his midfielder under a bus with a pass like that. He'd give him no chance. So I'm solely of the opinion that is all brought around by bringing your midfield into the game when you don't need to.
There's the famous Bergkamp quote about passing, something along the lines of a good pass should tell your teammate what to do next. And these guys at this highest level, they're so good that they will be intentionally passing it to the right foot or the left foot of their teammate based upon what they can see that their teammate cannot. So Van Dijk, with the field in front of him, gives the ball to McAllister's right foot, I believe, and with the insinuation that you can turn onto your right-hand side. The pressure's not coming from that side. The pressure is coming from that side. And the heat is really approaching McAllister's right-hand side. So ideally you would want McAllister to do better. And this is perhaps maybe, I'm going to cautiously say this because I don't think it's super important in the grand scheme of things. This is maybe where I would have wanted a true 6 physical profile, because I think there are tons of Premier League holding midfielders who are nowhere near as skilled or as intelligent as Alexis McAllister, but they potentially could have dealt with that situation just because they have standout physical attributes that don't allow them to get knocked off the ball. Again, I'm reaching here. It's kind of like the Alisson thing. There are other things to address before we even start thinking about things like that. But just wanted to share that because it was crossing my mind at the time. So after they score, it's not like they start taking the game to us, but we do not immediately improve. And there's really not much to speak of until the script flips quite dramatically within the space of only a few minutes. Here's what I thought. By the time halftime rolls around, I'm thinking Liverpool deserved to be behind. But based on the 4 to 5 good decisions they made in the final third, in the final 3 minutes of the half, they're worthy of their lead. And it's a strange sport, sometimes, and I wasn't really sure what to make of the half. Our equalizer, Conroy, is brilliant. It's a clinic in quick turnover play, just how to maximize a turnover in midfield. I believe it's Soboslai forces the turnover in midfield. Boom, 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 boom. Best winger in world football slots it in. It looked so sharp and it looked so precise and it stood in such stark contrast to sort of the aimless way we went about the first half. What are your thoughts on that? I thought the juxtaposition of that was kind of interesting.
I agree, Evan. I think it was, ironically, I think the commentary were saying Liverpool hadn't created any chances literally seconds before the goal. And it's probably the first time that Brighton had gave the ball away in that position and we were pressing and we got it. It is such quick thinking. As you say, I think it's Szoboszlai, then it's Diaz and Nunes involved. And then it's, to be fair, I know Harvey Elliott didn't have the greatest game, but he has a touch of class to just dummy that and leave it for Salah, because it's not as if Harvey probably could have hit that first time as well, but it's that knowledge of knowing Mo Salah's behind me. Obviously, if you're a betting person or you're putting money or you're putting if you're going to judge Harvey Elliott or Salah in that position, you trust Salah a lot more. He obviously feels the same. And it's, what, I think is actually a very intelligent goal. It's not one you see that often, but I thought fair play to Harvey Elliott. Didn't have the greatest game, but that was a real moment of quality and a great finish. Funnily enough, I think actually because Elliott does that dummy, it leaves the keeper completely point blank. He's not initially expecting it. I think he's bracing for the Elliott shot. So it was a great goal, and we're back in the game. And as you say, it's the Premier League. Things change very quickly, and when you've got that talent, like we've said this season, especially in attack, you can get yourself back in a game so quickly.
Yeah, Steve, it's really interesting how you can be so anonymous for essentially the entire half of football. But like I said, if you make good decisions in the final third within the space of a few seconds consecutively, you can score a textbook team goal. What were your thoughts on the finish? What were your thoughts on just sort of how everybody played that situation? Because it felt like for the first time the entire half, every Liverpool player made the correct decision within the space of a few seconds.
I would agree, and it was difficult to see leading up to that what Liverpool were trying to achieve. They were trying to draw Brighton onto them, which clearly wasn't working. Tactically, I couldn't see how that was going to be executed and how that would work. And the first time we stepped up and tried to win ball in dangerous areas and put Brighton under pressure like Aston Villa did, and they came from 2 down in midweek in Europe because they found themselves in a difficult situation there. The first time we cashed in on the hesitancy and the doubt that's in that side at the moment, we reaped our dividends and went on to do it again, which I'm sure we'll talk about before we get into the second half. I was like you, I was sitting there, you can't quite believe how you go in 2-1 up after 40 minutes of, mediocrity is being kind, isn't it? That was a really poor 40 minutes from Liverpool, and it kind of comes alive in the last 5. And it's just, I just want Liverpool to do what Liverpool do rather than trying to see what the opposition are going to do and then react to that. With the players we've got and the front foot players we've got, we should be dictating games and saying to other teams, now you try and do something about us, rather than trying to draw a team like Brighton with no confidence, with no wins, shipping a shed load of goals in 3 games and giving them the perfect opportunity to grow in confidence and get their swag back and get the fans behind them and give us a really difficult 40 minutes. And the first time we did the things we do well, we reaped the benefits. And lovely quick interchange. And as Conroy says, I'm sure he gets the shout, but the goalkeeper's absolutely flat-footed off the dummy from Harvey Elliott, and all Salah's got to do is hit the target, and he does with aplomb as usual. And we're right back in the game, and from that moment on, I was calling for half time in my mind, thinking we need to get these boys in and make some tactical changes because this really isn't working. And I'm thinking, no, scrap that. Find another 10 minutes in the first half because we'll probably be out of sight because this has changed so much off the back of one move, one bit of constant pressure, one bit of quick interplay, one lot of intelligent footballers all working together. And as you quite rightly said, the best winger in world football equalises. That was how we should have played for me throughout the whole half. And I sat there at half time and I couldn't understand, like you, how we're 2-1 up, how we only play for 5 minutes and we get to 2-1 and it's kind of 40 minutes wasted. So that's, we talk about disappointments and frustration. I think that was my frustration at half time was, why did we only play for 5 minutes? Why did we let these guys grow in confidence?
And I didn't think Brighton, all due respect to them, because like I said, I've lavish praised on them. Phenomenally run club, great collection of players, well coached, well drilled. I didn't think they were good in the first half. I didn't think they were particularly good. Forced a good turnover, uh, intuitive finish, very good, but they didn't have to work very hard to shut us down. And that I think was epitomized by our first goal. All we had to do was win the ball in midfield once, and then boom, we looked as sharp as attack. That brings us into what happened only moments after our equalizer. This is obviously a far cry away from the dramatics of what happened at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in terms of a refereeing scandal. Um, but it is yet another, I think, massive point of contention that for me is not nearly subjective enough to let the refs off the hook here. So as you know, Brighton play with fire themselves, and we force a turnover, just how they forced a turnover early on. Darwin Nunez quite smartly lays it off to Soboslai for a tap in, and Soboslai is professionally fouled by Pascal Gross, yanked by the collar pretty blatantly, pretty obviously, right under the nose of Anthony Taylor, and it's a stonewall penalty. Anthony Taylor, to his credit, tries to play an advantage to avoid the penalty to keep players on the pitch, but there's no advantage, so he blows for the penalty, which Mo Salah dispatches, and we're in 2-1 at halftime. However, the double jeopardy rule, relatively new rule in the grand scheme of things, is an effort to keep players on the pitch. Or to not only keep players on the pitch, but to keep games alive. Because obviously, just as a neutral, the penalty plus the red card can kill a game, I think, a bit too quickly. And the idea is to make football a spectacle. As a neutral, I understand all these things. However, the rule also states that you are only protected by the double jeopardy rule if you, as the fouler of the player in the box, make a genuine attempt for the ball. Now, this was clarified by, I believe it was David Lynch. He says, I'm being told that the VAR room thought that Pascal Gross made a honest attempt for the ball, which therefore puts him under the protection of the double jeopardy rule, and it's a penalty and a penalty alone. For me, I think that's absolutely ridiculous. Because Pascal Gross he does make a lunge with his leg for the ball. He does eventually try to play the ball, but he is only able to do so after he has successfully pulled Dominic Szoboszlai by the collar to the ground. So in order to make a play for the ball, he first had to do the definition of a professional foul. So for me, I don't see how that's consistent with the rules. I think that's a blatant red card in any era of the game, even this double jeopardy era of the game. There's not going to be a statement. There's not going to be an apology because unfortunately this does fall into subjective territory. Not nearly enough for me to walk away from this feeling like they've made a good call. But I want to get your thoughts on that because it is a point of contention. And just tell me, should Pascal Gross have gotten his marching orders? Conroy.
So for me, Evan, initially when I saw this, I know you're saying David Lynch came out. Initially, what I thought because of the double jeopardy rule, as soon as I saw him pull him, I'm thinking straight away, right, okay, Anthony Taylor, he's tried to let the game go on, as you say, fair enough. Try. I think he's gave it a bit of time to play out, no problem. Points to the spot. Now, when it's going to VAR, initially I'm thinking straight away, right, well, it's a penalty. We can all see that. I think they're checking this because I spotted straight away it's a pull. Now, if you've seen double jeopardy a lot, a clear intention for the ball is, i.e., a slide tackle. Let's be honest. If
Mhm,
you're sliding,
mhm,
that's pretty much it. If you're pushing someone, pulling them, even like a blatant pushing behind, you're not trying to get the ball. You're not going to handball it, are you, with your hands? It's a slide tackle. That's 9 times out of 10 what you're going to do. So that's what I thought they were checking. So I was surprised as well. I agree. I think it is a pullback, clear pullback as well. It's not as if, it's kind of 50-50, a bit of hand and a
mm,
bit of leg. For me, it's clear. The only thing I thought initially was see with the ball going the other direction, but still, if you watch it again, you can see it's not as if the ball's moving that quickly that Sabozlai can get his foot around that and have a shot at goal. So it is a clear goal scoring opportunity. So initially, that was the only part where, as you mentioned, the subjectivity that I initially thought, and to me, I still agree. I don't think that's enough subjectivity for me. I still think it's clear that that's a red card and a goal scoring opportunity. So for either way there, what David Lynch has said and initially what I thought, I think it's a clear. I think VR needs to step in and highlight that because I understand if you're Anthony Taylor, you might not see that straight away because
mhm.
of the right hand, which is fair enough. That's what it's there for. But I agree with you. That should be a red card in my opinion.
Steve, is that a red card? Are we deliberating on this too long? Me and Conroy think it's Stonewall. I would have to agree with him.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's a red card. I think if you look at the events, if you can't make a play for the ball and that is with your feet and it's too far away, and then you pull a man back by his shirt and he goes down, and then you make a play for the ball, well, the initial opportunity to challenge for the ball, you didn't even attempt to do it, it's gone. So it's
Mhm,
the first foul, which is the pulling of the shirt, pulling him to the ground. Let's be
mhm,
honest, these guys, they're told if you feel any contact, any pulling of the shirt, and that's the way football is these days. Then Szoboszlai's a big lad. He didn't wrestle him to the ground. He had the opportunity to make the referee make a decision, and he took it. And I get it. So it's for me, it's an absolute stonewall red card. The double jeopardy thing. Forget that. He's made no attempt to play the ball. He's manhandled the guy, pulled him down by his shirt, and then he's had a lunge at the ball as well, which I'm not convinced he got that either. So it's wrong. It should have been a red card, and VAR should have stepped in. And I can't help but wonder why, because of all the high profile stuff that's gone on in the past week or so. They've kind of taken a very liberal approach to what's gone on and tried to sort of say, we're not going to make a big thing about this. We feel he made a legitimate attempt to get the ball. Liverpool have got your penalty. Let's get on with it. Took the penalty away. Go at half time 2-1 up, and we've avoided a situation. Now, as we know, social media again has flared up this evening saying, should he or shouldn't he have sent him off? There won't be an apology. There might be an internal conversation about it. It'll be on Ref Watch tomorrow, but everyone's very keen now to sort of move on from the Spurs debacle, if you like. And I think perhaps that was a sort of something that was brought into consideration during that period of time.
Yeah, completely in agreement with pretty much all of what you said. My only disagreement is I think the shirt pull is so egregious and so aggressive that I think Dominic Szoboszlai is trying to stay on his feet. I just think it is that blatant and that forceful of a yank that it actually does bring him to the ground. Um, but I see you folks in the comments. Why are we talking about refs? We didn't play well. Excuses. Well, we just got done talking about how poor Liverpool were in the first half. But it's our duty to analyze the game, and that this was a contentious call, a pivotal moment in the game. So we are duty bound to talk about it, and
We always do
that's
as
how we
well,
see it.
Evan. We always do that. We always break it down game incident by
Yeah.
incident. We always do.
Yeah. But I'm not going to be going to bed tonight upset with refs. I'm going to be going to bed upset with the fact that Liverpool couldn't win the game because it was Liverpool's game to lose, despite how below uh, below our usual quality we were. So we go into halftime, and like I said, I on one hand I think we're worthy of the lead, based on what we did in the final third and key moments. But at the same time, over the course of an actual 45 minutes, you could say, well, we don't deserve to, even be level. So I felt conflicted going into halftime. There's a change at halftime. Harvey Elliott comes out. Didn't have his best game by any stretch of the imagination, but I didn't think he was actively making us worse. That's just me. Let me know if you disagree. But there's no denying that the change was good because Ryan Gravenberch came on in the second half and he played fantastic, in my opinion. I thought he was great. Thought pretty much everything he did was positive. So it was a good substitution. My only question for you two is, do you think this was a planned substitution? Was this a tactical tweak? Was this no minutes management? Okay, Conroy, what do you think? Is this a planned switch or was it tactical?
Sorry, Evan. I think tactical, possibly in the sense of gave Elliot the opportunity to see how he get on, and then realised that we maybe needed, as we said, Gravenberch in that position, because I think you've seen enough of Gravenberch recently to know when he's fully fit and fully gelled in, he can perform in this team. So I think based on Elliot's first half performance, that's why he came off.
Okay, Steve, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it was tactical. I said before I couldn't understand Liverpool's game plan for 40 minutes. I worry for Harvey in as much that I think he's becoming an impact player when we're 60 minutes into a game and we need someone bright and fresh who's going to put the ball on the floor with his first touch and look forward with his second touch. I think that suits Harvey. I think to start him there, I don't know. It doesn't work for me necessarily. And of the people who are available in the central area of the midfield, that was my only concern at the start of the game, was how playing against a mobile Brighton side that's physical and wants to run at your midfield and always has, how Harvey Elliott would cope with that. I wonder whether he's put in there a little bit to help out Trent with Mitoma. But that didn't appear to be such an arduous task on the day for Trent. I don't think Mitoma had his best game against Liverpool by any stretch. But I think Harvey's better coming off the bench. And you're right, the changes made a difference because everything that Gravenberch does, he's shown us certainly his last two appearances, is technically as good as anything we've got. Technically an absolutely dream to watch and must be wonderful to play with. And I think he's only going to get better. I think when everybody's available, I think the thing for Elliott is he's probably earned the start, to be honest with you, with those cameo roles where he's come off the bench and really shown what he's capable of. And Klopp's probably thought, you know what, we've got to reward these people for the things that they do. And when he's come off the bench, he's looked fresh, he's looked bright, he's looked like the guy that can get at people and reinvigorate us. I've seen this story before when he starts games and it doesn't work out quite the same for him. And I often talk about players at football clubs accepting their roles, and at the age he is, and he's still got loads to learn and loads to grow, and that might change in 2 or 3 years' time. I think right now for me he's an impact player off the bench, and I thought the experiment went wrong, for being honest with you, and I thought it was the right thing to do at half time to change it. I expected to see Endo because they were getting a lot of space running at our midfield, and what you wanted to do was just put a plug in the hole at the base of the midfield and say, just occupy that space. Just by being there, you're giving them something else to think about in terms of their outball and how they get out. And they were getting out and getting through the middle too quickly and too easily. But again, as you alluded to, Gravenberch is an exciting sign, and it was the right change. And I think for the first 15 minutes of the second half, I thought we were in the ascendancy, and I thought Gravenberch, we'll talk about that situation in a moment, but I thought Gravenberch more than contributed to taking control of the game.
Absolutely. I think, I've been a Gravenberch advocate for a long time prior to, any concrete links to Liverpool. It's a player I always wanted us to sign. So to have him here, it's a bit surreal. And he was largely fantastic. Another great move in the final third that results in him hitting the bar. Should score, undoubtedly should score. Probably a harder opportunity than it looks. Not exactly a tap in, but absolutely should score with the goal at his mercy. However, the construction of the goal what should have been a goal, the construction of the chance was fantastic. It once again involves Dominic Soboslai doing just incredible things. He's just an absolute Rolls Royce of a player, one of the best midfielders in the league already for me. Um, and it also involves, I need to shout out Darwin Nunez, who was involved with the first goal, involved with the us winning the penalty, makes pretty much all of the right decisions today on the ball. The Darwin Nunez of old, Darwin Nunez of maybe 6, 7 months ago, ball seems to just be bouncing off of him. He's not making the right decisions. He's forcing passes too early. He's realizing the pass is there too late. Darwin Nunez not only has, I think, looked better in front of goal, he also just seems to be better just in terms of his general play. And this is huge for Darwin Nunez because that's the thing that I thought was keeping Cody Gakpo and the team ahead of him in the final months of last season. But today, I thought the hold-up play was great, and I know it's something we've already spoken about on this show before. He's improved the hold-up play, he's improved the decision-making, and pretty much all of his decisions in the final third today were the correct decisions. And lo and behold, we created some very, very high XG chances as a result. But you have to wonder that at 2-1, with the opportunity to put the game on ice, whether that miss from Ryan Gravenberch was going to come back and bite us in the behind. And lo and behold, it did. But I'll come to you first, Conroy. One, how would you gauge the improvements that I've mentioned, just in terms of Darwin Nunez today and beyond? And secondly, what was preventing us from carving Brighton open like that more often? Because we did it pretty effortlessly 2 or 3 times in the game, but largely over the 90 minutes, we were quite poor.
Yeah, I think Nunes, that's a really good shout, Evan. I think some people maybe wouldn't have noticed that today as well. I think for that goal, finds himself in a, a playmaker's position, if you will, and
Mm.
plays a really good through ball. A very it's good decision making, which is really good to see from Nunes. As you said, that was one of the biggest criticisms, was his touch wasn't great. He's maybe playing the wrong pass or making the wrong decision. It's a great through ball. So Bosley shows his experience is playing on slightly wider as well, with a great cross to find Gravenberch. And I complete agreement. I'm not saying it's harder than it looks, but professional footballer has to finish that. You just have to, and I think that would be the game. But listen, he played well. He was good, Gravenberch. We're not hating on him, but I think even he would say he should have scored that. I think so. On Nunes, yeah, it's great to see he's kind of taking his opportunities recently as well, which is fantastic. And I'd say on the concept of us not being able to create that too often, it was a strange game. I think, as we said, I think both teams had spells. Both teams weren't probably amazing. I mean, if we're being fair, if you're summarising the game, we weren't. We had parts that were poor, parts that were pretty good. I just think I go back to it today. I think McAllister didn't have a great game, and I think the fact that that link up in midfield wasn't amazing throughout the game. I think if we had that, if that was working from the start, or at least from the end of the second half consistently, I think we would have cut them open far more often. However, I think Brighton do have threats. They have players who believe and are brave. So it may be, to be honest, a mixture between we both went at our top performance, and at times I think we were nullifying each other. But it was such a strange game because there was moments where there was like lots of space, and then there was other
Mm.
times where it was like it felt like it just wasn't clicking. So from my point of view, I think it's just a mixture. But I would say this on the Gravenberch, just to talk about another incident that I know we're going to talk about their equaliser, but Brighton had chances as well. A Dinra from Robertson's mistake, which is a great save by Allison, and also João Pedro's miss. So you sometimes have to take the good with the bad. You get a little bit of luck as well as you miss your opportunities. So I'm not too mad because a few things could have went against us today, and it didn't. So I would just like to add that balanced view. And sorry, guys, my voice is going, but I'm trying my best.
You're a trooper, Conroy. You're an absolute trooper. Steve, thoughts on the improvements that Nunez has shown in just his overall play and the construction in what should have been our third goal?
Yeah, it's taken longer than we would have hoped for him to learn to play how Liverpool play. If you roll it back to the night he came to Anfield with Benfica and terrorised us, that whole team was set up around him. You come to a club like Liverpool where you're not the big attraction, you're not the star man because you're playing with a certain Mo Salah and you're playing with other high profile players. It takes a little while for him to understand the change in the role of his team, and it all won't roll around him. He now looks more like a complete centre forward as opposed to someone that is a one trick guy. That basically, in that trick is to play on the shoulder of your slowest and most vulnerable centre back and hopefully get round the back of him. He is improving. I still think him and Gakpo will slug it out horses for courses throughout the season. They'll play one in some games and one in others. When we want to look after the ball, we'll maybe play Gakpo. When we think we can get at people with super quick transition, we'll probably go with Nunes. But he has improved. Even the miss in midweek, one went wide it cost so many managers to steer it wide of the left-hand post when it's easier to score. They don't seem to affect him, and that's a real strong point for him. It's a real attribute, resilience, in terms of he can laugh those off. We don't laugh them off. We sit there swearing at the telly, but he kind of laughs them off, doesn't he? And I like that about him. I don't think he's phased by much. I do know from a very reliable source that he's very nervous before the game. You can't speak to him, and he suffers really bad with pre-game nerves, and sometimes that spills over into the game. But he has improved. He's now a genuine consideration for games. The muscle fatigue thing that he's suffering with around his knee, I think it is something. Obviously, we have to manage his minutes. That's why we've got 5 top class forwards, because when we can't have one through injury and one through a suspension, we've still got 3 quality players to go to. So I don't think there's another team in the league that can boast that. So long may his improvements continue. I need him to get that deadly eye for goal, and then we can start talking about him as a prolific goal scorer, as well as a guy that's increasing in all the areas that you want. A more rounded number 9, because played off the left at Benfica, so this number 9 role is quite new to him to do it week in, week out. So there is football intelligence there. The 12 months ago, I was wondering whether that was the case.
Well said. Well said. Fair point about him. We think of him as an out and out 9, but his most successful spell at Benfica, like you said, was off the left in a non-traditional winger role. So Liverpool do have the opportunity to put the game on ice. They do not, and it does come back to bite them in the behind. Brighton equalize, and this eventually becomes a nervy ending to the game, where not only have Liverpool squandered 3 points, but they could have squandered just a single point as well. The manner in which we have conceded both goals today is unacceptable. If you are going to go to the Amex Stadium and you are going to drop points, it better be because Matoma did something incredible, or Pascal Gross scored some stunning free kick, or they just scored an incredible team goal, which we know they are capable of doing. When I look at the manner in which we conceded today, we really only have ourselves to blame. Just a collective failure for the first goal, as we've established, and then just I it's a soft set piece to concede. I thought the foul itself was very soft to give. That's a conversation for another time. But the defending is woeful. Lewis Dunk does not have to do anything particularly impressive to put that into the net. Andrew Robertson has a clear opportunity to do something about the ball that is delivered into the box. He hesitates, and that sort of nervy hesitation costs Liverpool 3 points in the end. It's the type of mistake that I don't think is acceptable from a veteran. A veteran puts it into Rosie, a veteran just deals with it. A veteran knows that you're playing with fire if I let this go for whatever reason. And I couldn't see the justification behind letting it go. It's not like he's directly in front of the goal where he might put it into his own net. At that point, it might be forgivable. But he just lets it go, and it's a tap in. And I felt so sour in that moment because, like I've alluded to, I don't think we forced Brighton to do anything special today to come away with anything from the game. Conroy, what were your thoughts on their equalizer? And also give me your thoughts on the substitutions today, specifically Kanate and Gomez coming on.
Yeah, on the goal, I completely agree, Evan. It's a strange mistake because it's not as if he's blindsided. He just hesitates. I don't know why. Seems a lapse in judgment. I'm not really sure. He knows himself. He obviously made the mistake straight away. He's a veteran. That shouldn't happen. So I completely agree with you on that. I'm not really sure why he does that, but there will be a reason. But it's not good enough, and he'll know that as well. So yeah, it really just gives them a goal because, as you say, it basically hits off Dunk as well. It's like that. He's that close to goal that it hits off him and goes in. It's just not good enough. And I would say on the subs, you've seen this a few times now, but I think Kanate coming on and Gomez. I think the initial thoughts with Gomez was, let's see out the game, maybe Trent's fitness. Gomez can maybe see it out in the sense of bring that security for the last 10 minutes. But I think more on Trent's fitness because, to be honest, Matoma seemed to get more involved or have more confidence the last 10 minutes up against Gomez, which was, the way it worked out, which I found quite interesting. But I assumed at the time it maybe just because Trent just came back, so that would be the Gomez sub. And Joe's done reasonable as of late. And the Kanate one again, I think it may be Klopp's looking at that we need to get something from this game. A bit like let's not be so absent-minded. Let's get a result. So that was my thoughts. And as I say, after this, I'll probably not talk for like 24 hours. So trying, guys, I'm trying.
I appreciate you, Conroy. You're going hard for us right now. Steve, what were your thoughts on their equalizer as well as our defensive substitutions?
I'm still coming to terms with calling Robbo a veteran. I've never called him that before, and it's new to me that. So I'll come to terms with Robbo being a veteran. He goes at it. He's so 1-footed. He goes at it with his left foot when it's a right foot clearance all day long. He just doesn't fancy it, so he's worried about the own goal, swinging his right foot at it. We see Matip do it the week before at Spurs. It's a ball into a dangerous area. It's coming in with pace. Conroy's right. Dunk doesn't have to do anything, and it literally comes off him and gives the keeper no chance. It's poor defending. It is. You'd rather look. They score like Matip gave the goal away against Tottenham because you never blame defenders for attacking the ball in own goal situations. Rather than leaving it going in like that, because then you can look at the defender and say, well, why didn't you go for it? Why didn't you make a better effort of it? Rather than saying, well, put his challenge out there to try and block the ball, and he's been unlucky. It's gone in off him. We can see this a second equaliser in 2 weeks for another own goal. Well, that's an easier thing to live with than the conversation we're having right now about an established international veteran making a mess of a pretty routine clearance. In terms of the substitutions, I think we fall into the trap of making substitutions because we have players sitting on the bench when sometimes they don't add to the structure of the game. They don't game change. Bringing Kanate on and Joe Gomez is not a forward-thinking step in terms of let's go and win the game. And I know we've got injuries and suspensions in the front line, but that for me isn't how you're going to take control of that game and push yourself over the line. We did it away at Spurs because we had to, and the experiment was absolutely amazing. And but for that last gasp effort, that would have been one of the best defensive performances you ever could have seen. I think being an advocate for 5 subs, I think Klopp feels sometimes obliged to use 5 subs. I don't genuinely believe sometimes you have to. And this idea that I saw Gabriel Jesus say tonight, I played 3 games of football in a week. Yeah, but you spent the other 4 days in the gym making yourself into a super fit machine. And your conditioning and your dietary and your nutrition and all that means that you should be able to play 3 games in a week. They used to do it 30, 40 years ago when they didn't have all of those things, and the pitches were heavier and the balls were heavier and the shirts were heavier. So I don't buy into that. And that I'm going somewhere with this. That's why I don't think we need to make changes for the sake of making changes. I think if you've got a front line which gets you the chance to win a game deep, then you should keep that front line. If you've got a structure that gives you a chance to win the game late on, then you keep that structure. I might have changed Trent for Gomez purely from a fitness point of view, but I don't think Gomez covered himself in glory. His first thing was a gallop down the line and knock the ball out of play, and then the quick throw in, and he's 30 yards out of position. So that is the concentration issues I see Joe Gomez bring to the team when he's in the side, especially when you come on as a sub. Harvey Elliott's great coming on as a sub. Joe Gomez really isn't. So I think sometimes the substitutions kill us. They absolutely kill us. We go from a point of being in total control to it being a melee towards the end. And, they grew in confidence when we made the changes. We didn't grow. We didn't control the game any better. If anything, they came back into the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And the subs, I think largely this season so far have been great. They've won us games. We can point to very explicit examples of that. But today they just didn't. You know they weren't neutral. They were pretty much slightly negative across the board. Um, this this result hurts. Not only because I think we all wanted a full palate cleanser after last week, but because you can point around to other teams in the league and other results, and you can start to think the words missed opportunity. Um, are Liverpool genuine title contenders this season? My answer at the close of the transfer window was no. I think my answer still is no. Because I think the floor of what you need to win the Premier League in the Guardiola era is give or take 90 points. Don't know if there's 90 points in this team, but in a week where City and Arsenal were playing each other, um, getting 3 points today was an absolute must. And for us to go to the MX and not really get outplayed, not really be put to the sword by Brighton, but kind of invite them in their own house into the game and sort of, throw the lead away, that's going to leave a sour taste in the mouth for quite a long time. And another thing I wanted to bring up, we have three very winnable games before we take on Manchester City. Um, I think, and I'm gonna let y'all give me this as your parting thoughts before we say goodbye for the evening. For me personally, I think Everton, Forest, Luton. Sorry, there's actually a fourth game. There's Brentford as well. I think you need 12 points from those games before you travel to the Etihad. Because what are the chances that City are going to get 12 points in between now and then? Probably pretty high. Probably pretty high. Arsenal probably the same. And I could say that without looking at their schedules. Um, how do you feel about our title credentials, Conroy? Is 12 points from the next 4 games before a trip to Manchester an absolute must? What do you think?
I would agree, Evan. I'm on the fence a bit like yourself. For me, there's moments that you think we could be. To be honest, the first time today, right, I have to say that is the worst performance I have ever seen under a Pep Guardiola team today. That was horrendous. The management of him, the tactics, everything, where he played his players, not playing inverted wingers, just like they couldn't control the ball. And you're going to bring the Roger thing, which is fair enough. But I thought they were hopeless today, like really, really poor, lacked so much creativity. And you can say what you want about City, but creativity is one of the things. Even when they play bad, they offer a threat. Maybe Spurs away a few times have been poor as well, but I thought today they were just. I couldn't believe what I was watching, to be honest. Fair enough, Arsenal won, but let's be honest, there was not a lot of creative quality in that game. If anything, the goal that won that game was the type of goal that was going to win that game. It was either going to be a 30-yard screamer or a deflection. It was just, I think, in the final third, both teams. But Man City, it equivalently felt like they're playing a 4-4-2 sometimes, where every player having been like if using the foot they're on. So if they're so Foden was on the left. Alvarez on the right. It was just, yeah, it was just. I thought I couldn't believe what I was watching, to be honest. Now I understand Rodri's not there, and that's going to be a big thing, but it did actually fill me with a little bit of confidence of if Rodri can be out and they can like lack so much in this one game, if we can get a bit of a run together, you never know. Because I do say, and I have said, the strength and depth of our attacking quality we've got really is something, and it can save a lot of games. So I think if we can get 12 points going into that match, Evan, as you say, we're still in it. We're third or fourth now, 17 points. Arsenal, Spurs on 20. Still a lot to play for. If we can get a run together and then maybe, as I say, playing Man City at home, after today, I actually do have more confidence. We have to kind of sort our own affairs in the sense of sometimes we're starting very, very slow, especially in midfield, kind of unforced errors as such. But if we can get that run together, I do have more confidence. I think we still have to see it, but it's not crazy because see if this was a City City have got it in them to do a 14-match run. I'm not naive. But I just seen something today. I was just like, when I was watching the game, if I was Arsenal, I'd be like, this team are beatable. So that's what I would say. It's just a caveat that it could be a one-off, but if we can get a run, I think that game, we if we caught them like that at Anfield, we can beat them when they're brilliant. Something could happen, lads. That's all I'm saying. I think there could be quite an interesting run this year because I think no one's seen Spurs being able to do what they're doing. And that actually might help us because it's not just a Arsenal Man City, a Liverpool Man City. People can beat each other. So I'm just going to rein it back. But the original question, without going on, I think 12 points going into that game, Evan, you never know, mate. All to play for. And I think we can do it.
Steve, it's 12 points from the next 4 prior to City, a non-negotiable for you to have some semblance of confidence about title credentials. Where are your head in terms of Liverpool's title credentials as things stand?
So first of all, 18 games, 1 defeat. So we talk about teams that can go on long runs. That's exactly what we're in the midst of at the moment. And that 1 defeat subjective, we know that. That's also the reason why one of the teams is sitting at the top of the Premier League right now, because I firmly believe, all things being equal, we would have beaten Spurs last Sunday. So Liverpool do need to win those games because other teams around them will pick up points. That game today, City versus Arsenal, or Arsenal versus City to be correct, was an absolutely dreadful advert for the Premier League. It was a really poor game. And I'm not overly scared of either of those. Now, if we're coming off the back of 2 performances, we would have liked to have been different outcomes, and we're sitting 3 points off the top of the table, and there's no standout performer in the league at the moment, then you have to say, as things are so early in the season, we're in the mix. You have to say that. If we do what we've done in the next 18 games, which is lose 1 and go on a long run like that, we will be absolutely right up there. Manchester City is so reliant on creating patterns of play to get Kevin De Bruyne into space to feed Erling Haaland. Unless they use Bernardo Silva properly, they don't have another player in the team that can do that for them. And they played him last 2 times they played him at Arsenal, they played him in a deep role, then they played him at left back the time before. So you wonder this willingness for Guardiola to tinker with his tactics and try and do something that nobody else is expecting backfired today, big time. And that's 3 domestic defeats in a row for Manchester City. And I don't think we've said that too often when Guardiola's been manager at Manchester City.
True.
And I don't think Arsenal were all that either. I thought it was a really, really bad game today. With the firepower we've got, with the players like Szoboszlai, Gravenberch, and McAllister played in his proper position, I think we're a match for those teams. We have more firepower than them because we got goals coming from different areas. So I think we are at this moment in time. I think it's too early to call who are your genuine title contenders. You're right. 12 points and 4 games down the line, the picture looks a lot more different. Manchester City coming to Anfield without Kevin De Bruyne because he won't be fit in a month's time. That's your opportunity to win that game. And your midfield shape between now and then needs to settle down and stop making so many changes and find out who the three are going to be and give them a chance to build some relationships. Gravenberch is a new player to the squad, has no relationships with anybody. Curtis Jones has started to build a relationship with Luis Diaz, and we'll see Curtis Jones come back in for sure. That will be a real litmus test for Liverpool when City comes to it. And if Liverpool can beat Manchester City at Anfield, I don't want to see kids coming out the ground and doing laps of honour and all singing and dancing Tony Shorts in the crowd like Arsenal did, because it's too early for all of that. It means nothing. It's just a confidence boost which you can take into your next game. That's how we have to approach this. We're in the mix now, but everybody's in the mix now because there's so many teams within 4 or 5 points. And realistically, you can say at the end of the season, forget it. I saw a tweet today from a Man United fan. They've had their worst start ever. Liverpool are saying we're back, and there's only 5-point difference. So I took the liberty of having a look at who they've played and who we'd played, and that's why there's only 5 points difference, because they've been beaten by Crystal Palace at home. So, you know, when they start playing the real sides, we're going to find out will the real Manchester United please stand up? And they'll be nowhere near it. But in 4 games' time, and then with the City game, as a collective here on Redfellas on a Sunday night, that's the time to have a conversation about what does the rest of the season look like, and should we genuinely consider ourselves to be contenders? Right now, I'm not frightened of anything I've seen in the Premier League to suggest that we're out of the running. We're quite capable of taking ourselves out of the running with performances like today. I don't think it's so much about the opposition. I think it's more about what we do.
And that's why, well said, by the way, and that's why you have to look outward as well as inward, because we, as Liverpool fans, it's all very Liverpool-centric. We tend to look inward and magnify our own flaws. But like you said, Steve, if Arsenal and City are considered the favorites for the title, they did not put on a great advert for their credentials, and they have at times shown their own fragilities in the domestic campaign so far. A little bit of confusion. I said the game was away, then some people said it was at home. Can confirm, I just Googled it. It is at the Etihad, so it will be away. That is all the time we have for you today. We've managed to squeeze an hour out of our modest little trio there. Conroy with a single vocal cord, hanging in there, giving us the very last of his speaking ability. He will never speak again. It's very sad. It's very sad. We will miss Conroy's voice. But that's all we have.
That might be a good thing, Evan, for a lot of people. That might be a good thing.
Yeah, especially after your courtroom defense of PGMOL last week. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, it's been Red Fellas on a Sunday evening. I believe it's Toulouse next. Hopefully Liverpool don't find a way to lose that game. Anyways, we should just end the stream on that. Conroy, whenever you're ready with the outro, this has been Red Fellas. It's been Evan. It's been Conroy. It's been Steve. We will see you guys next time.